Hi everyone, welcome back to What the FinTech, your FinTech Feel Good show. What the FinTech is a news and information platform covering the latest FinTech development in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and Asia. Join us every week for an engaging conversation with various tech figures, and we discuss about entrepreneurships, emerging technology, customer engagement, and partnerships. Before starting this interview, feel free to share your questions in the comment sections, like and share with your friends. And today we have Miguel from Payoneer. How are you, Miguel?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very happy to have you here today. Payoneer is one of the biggest name on the market across the world.
I'm super glad to hear you say that. I think it's been an amazing journey for me at Payoneer, but I love it. Every minute is super exciting.
Thank you very much for being here today. Before we start this interview, my first question is every time to the person coming here to introduce himself in a couple of words. Can you introduce yourself, what you did in your life, and how you came to become the general manager of Payoneer in Hong Kong?
Sure, happy to. So I like to say that I spent many years in traditional fintech. So I spent more than a dozen years with global players like FIS, basically providing software and services to banks and payment operators across Southeast Asia. And one of the things that I really focused on was um, customer front end solutions. So back in the day, they called it internet banking, mobile banking, and they were channel solutions. And the banks back then were very slow to adopt. And I couldn't quite understand why, because I saw this as a really good way to engage with customers more digitally and in a better user experience. And so when the opportunity came to join Payoneer, which was an emerging fintech back then, I jumped at the chance. I remember that my first exposure to Payoneer, I attended one of what we call the Payoneer forums in Manila. This is an event that we run in dozens of cities all over the world. We bring together entrepreneurs, partners, and community leaders to kind of talk about global cross border trends. And I remember I got to this event. I get out of the elevator, it was held in this hotel, and outside the elevator, the line was already forming to register for the event. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, there's something happening here. There's something super interesting happening here. And I joined the company. And today, my role is as VP of Southeast Asia and General Manager of Payoneer. And my team focuses on our go to market and growth strategy in the region. We work with customers, partners, communities, and key stakeholders to basically help those that are looking to expand globally.
Thank you very much. Great to understand what you are doing there. Can you also introduce briefly what is doing Pioneer in the region here?
Sure. So with Payoneer, what we're really trying to do is enable businesses of all sizes to thrive in the global digital economy. You know, for me, it's really about leveling the playing field for SMBs, helping them to access new markets, new platforms, and do business internationally. I think that one of the things that we've always really tried to do is to understand our customers, because 90% of the world's businesses are actually SMBs. And in developed countries like the Philippines, where I'm from, it's actually closer to 99. And they drive a significant portion of the global economy and the local economy. But there's also a lot of friction for these SMBs to participate in cross border trade. And one of the things that Payoneer tries to do is really to provide them with a solution that enables them to expand globally, whether they want to sell on a global marketplace, you know, something like an Amazon or an eBay, or provide services on a platform like Upwork or Fiverr, or to receive funds from direct international clients. And we do this by providing them with, think of it as a one-stop shop for managing the money that comes in, the managing the money that goes out, and also connecting to these global platforms.
Thanks for sharing. Can you elaborate a bit more on the core services and solutions? Because I understand the view, but if we want to go a bit in details on what you are really doing there.
Sure, happy to. And I talked earlier about how we work with several different types of customers. And you can also think about it as a two sided network. So on the sender side, we work with tens of thousands of the largest digital brands globally, the likes of, as I mentioned, Amazon, eBay, Upwork, Fiverr, but even Airbnb, Google, and Facebook. Um, and we help them pay their merchants, their sellers, their freelancers, their affiliates in more than 200 different countries and 150 different currencies. But then on the receiver side, we also actually help those same merchants, sellers, freelancers, and affiliates by giving them a Payoneer account. And this account helps them to connect to those global platforms.
Mhm.
It helps them to receive funds from international clients through a variety of methods, whether it's through credit cards, through virtual receiving accounts, or even from money from other Payoneer users. And then you can access the funds by withdrawing it to your local bank. You can get a card to spend both online and offline. You can send it as well to another Payoneer user. And you can, of course, also um, use this to pay others, both inside and outside the Payoneer network. And this effect of kind of working with both the sender side and receiver side, right? The network effect of both those senders encouraging more senders to consider Payoneer, and those receivers asking the senders to add Payoneer as a way to receive funds in their platform. I think this is a lot of what's fueled our growth over the last couple of years.
I'm sure you face a lot of competition on this market, or like other companies try to do similar products than yours. So, what set apart your company to your competitions or other platforms on the market?
So that's a really good question. And I like to think of it as kind of the combination of all of these factors. We've been able to build, call it a competitive moat,
Mhm.
right? Because yes, there are other companies that provide a receiving account or the ability to um, receive credit card payments, but those same companies aren't connected to the global marketplaces and platforms. There are companies that perhaps are providing point solutions for FX and the like, but they don't think about the SMB's total accounts payable and accounts receivable needs in the same way that we do. And lastly, in terms of our brand, I think this is something that we're really, really proud of because it's starting to become associated with global entrepreneurship. We're doing our best to actually help our customers in their international payments journey. Recently we released what is now our seventh annual um, Global Entrepreneurship Awards, where we recognize cross-border SMBs all over the world. And we dive deep into their stories. We understand, how they grew their business, and we actually build partnerships with them. And I think this is also what sets us aside is our ability to directly engage with our customers and provide them the kind of support that helps them focus on their business and not their payments.
Thanks, thanks. Um, I would like to elaborate a bit more on this report. Can you share some of the data or like findings you find reading this data and like creating this report?
Sure. So this report is something that, as I mentioned, we release annually among other reports. I was also going to talk about a freelance report that we release every year. We benchmark um, freelance earnings. We benchmark rates by type of service that the freelancers provide, and we also kind of look at those freelancers that are building their own businesses and hiring others. This is also something which I think is a value add, where we're actually providing more content to our customers to be able to understand the opportunities that are out there. And back to, for example, this entrepreneurship award, right? The idea really was to zero in and spotlight a couple of key contributors to this story of SMEs going global. And one of the examples I love to talk about is one of our customers in the region. It's a small business in Thailand. The name of the business is thumb in Thai. And they started as a local garment manufacturer where they would make t shirts and dresses and clothes. But then they decided that they needed to be able to scale internationally. And so they started to sell to wholesalers and resellers in other countries. And during COVID, this business, their growth was 400%. And the way that we helped them was really to simplify the way they receive funds from their customers in the US, in Europe, and other countries around the region, and made it easy for them to then be able to manage the funds in one place and then access the funds in Thai baht to be able to pay their people and their local business expenses.
Perfect, perfect. Do you create a kind of ecosystem with all those SMEs, and why those SMEs are leveraging on this ecosystem to grow their business, for example?
I think it's a great question, and that's the word that I also typically think of when I think about the work that we as Payoneer do. We actually engage with various partners within this ecosystem, right? We understand that it isn't just uh, a one company or one business effort. Building the cross-border payment ecosystem and digital commerce ecosystem actually requires a lot of cooperation from many different types of potential partners. So we work, for example, with um, Amazon and eBay and Walmart, uh, doing events around APAC, um, you know, educating sellers that are looking to expand internationally on how to sell on a marketplace, what types of products would potentially sell, and then tips and tricks on how to maximize the business on a marketplace. Similarly, in this ecosystem, we also work with other kind of community partners, those that are actually interested in helping SMBs in their country go global. So, a good example of this is in the Philippines, we work with the Department of Information and Communication Technology. And one of their key pillars for the last couple of years is to help local freelancers and small and medium business process outsourcing companies or BPOs access more international opportunities, create jobs in the countryside across the Philippines. And when we work with them, we provide content, we bring the community together, we identify trainers and speakers that help to educate those that are looking to kind of join this global digital uh, commerce opportunity and help them to navigate and better understand what they need to do to be able to participate. And at the end of the day, back to the point that I made previously, it is about leveling the playing field,
Mhm.
right? Giving that individual entrepreneur or that freelancer the same tools that in the past only large companies had access to. I think for me, that underlines and underscores the importance of the work that we do, is because we're actually helping put these SMBs in the Philippines, for example, on the global map.
This is great. I mean, like in terms of financial inclusion, there is no better way to do it, right? Just before we start this interview, we discussed you and me, and we spoke also about the user journey and the user experience. Can you elaborate a bit more on this part as well, please?
Sure. And one of the things that, again, back to what I was talking about when I was in the kind of traditional fintech space and the emergence of these digital solutions, right? I really think that this was a big leap forward than the current manual, paper based onboarding flows that many financial institutions still have today, right? So when you think about digital onboarding, um, you don't have to fill in a whole bunch of forms. You don't have to, uh, you know, uh, physically go to the branch. Everything can be done online or on your mobile phone. It's convenient and it's easy. And, when you think beyond that, right? Because payments, we know, right? A lot of due diligence and KYC is needed around payments because when you're working, for example, with very sensitive information like credit card numbers, you need to make sure that you understand the business of your customers. And so I remember many years ago when I had my own small business, um, I wanted to receive credit card payments. And the bank told me, okay, here's a stack of documents that you need to fill in, right? Then I need 3 years audited financial statements. Then I also need your business permits and all of these things. And, I was scratching my head going, my goodness, right? It took me, I think, 3, 4 weeks to be able to pull that all together and give it to the bank. And basically, it took me more than a month and a half to be able to accept credit card payments. Today, we do that digitally, right? And today, we're able to collect that information and provide a much smoother onboarding process for these SMBs. And then moving beyond that, once you've set up your account, right, then you can actually have a single place to manage accounts payable, the money that you invoice or receive from your clients or from international marketplaces, and accounts receivable and payable in that way, where the money that you need to pay your suppliers, the money that you might need to spend on things like digital advertising, so we can give you a card and help you drive traffic to your store or your site, and then manage those funds in a very convenient and efficient way. And then lastly, with the partnerships that we've enabled and the APIs that we can expose to some of our partners, we've even seen some many things in key markets where, for example, in Pakistan, we've worked with some of the largest banks there and created real-time integrations with them. So an SMB in Pakistan can transfer from within their Payoneer account to their local bank in seconds rather than days.
You anticipate my question on the cutting edge technology helping Payoneer. So my next question will be mostly focusing on innovation. How innovations help you to structure your strategy and develop your strategy these past years, but also for the future?
So it's a really great question. When I think about innovation, I also think just about trying to become brilliant at the basics, right? When you kind of zoom out and look at some of the key pain points of SMBs, some of them are really, really rudimentary, right? They're worried about cash flow. They're worried about um, how quickly am I going to get paid. They worry about where I'm going to get working capital. They worry about how to collect payments if they launch a new store, for example, on Shopify, right? And I think one of the things that we've recently launched is a product called Payoneer Checkout. It's uh, B2C payment processing. We see this opportunity as a really, really big one in the years to come. The D2C market in the US alone is probably going to surpass 170 billion this year. And this product launch represents something that our customers have been asking for many years. And now we've been able to collaborate with the likes of Shopify and WooCommerce and Shoplaza, all leaders in providing these digital storefronts to help our customers get access to more ways to sell online. And for me, that's kind of the innovation angle, where it's kind of empowering the SMB to go omni-channel, number one. And number two, when you think about speed, which we were just talking
Mhm.
about, right? Um, the trend towards needing your money faster is definitely something we're keen to help our customers unlock. And we're working with many different types of partners, including banks and mobile wallets in many developing and emerging countries across APAC, to actually improve the user experience, not just by improving speed, but it's also improving the ways that you can use the money.
Mhm. It's funny because I got a couple of meetings today and yesterday where we are speaking about same day payment. Is it the same day or is it like same minute, like same second payment? And this make a big difference right now. So I'm sure you had this discussion also before and you saw the improvement of your solution there.
So this is where I'm really proud of some of these partner relationships that we have, because, as I said, it's in seconds, right? What we've been able to do really is to work directly with the mobile wallet. So the example I gave earlier is Jazz Cash in Pakistan. But closer to the region in the Philippines, we also work with Gcash. This is quite an innovative mobile wallet that grew, I think,
everyone
8x over the pandemic.
everyone is using it right now, right?
Exactly, right. And what we've been able to do with them is actually to create a flow where a customer could, from the Gcash app, access their Payoneer balance, see how much they have in USD, euros, and GBP, and with a click of a button, transfer it from their foreign currency balance to their PHP local currency balance, and the money is there in seconds. And this, I think, was something that really resonated with our customers in the Philippines. And we've seen this partnership grow tremendously since we launched it a few years back.
I also know that you are the GM of Hong Kong, but also the VP of partnership for Asia, Southeast Asia. Sorry. Can you elaborate a bit more how you build the network there to collaborate with all those partners that you have and customers, and also what are the strategies you're using there?
Yeah, so this is partnerships is a very, very important pillar of our growth in the region.
Please continue.
Um, I think that you can't look at partnership as a one size fits all type approach. It's going to be really dependent on what the goals are for a particular partnership, but also what is the end game, right? We talked about digital commerce and expanding globally via digital commerce. And so the strategy for us has always been about identifying um, the points of enablement for our customers, right? We know that the customer needs to sell or wants to sell on a global marketplace or receive funds from direct international clients. So we will partner with key stakeholders from any of those areas, right? We know that the customers have a pain point where they want to access their funds faster. So that's why we will partner with the leaders in the space in various countries around the region. We also know that these customers need a lot more education when it comes to expanding internationally. And that's, again, why I had mentioned earlier that, we're even partnering with um, key stakeholders in the government to bring the message to these SMBs. And then lastly, right, and this is where I think the interesting types of partnerships we've been able to unlock over the last couple of years for me is really a revelation, because some of our most successful partnerships are with um, influencers and uh, communities online that help us to educate the wider customer base about the opportunities globally. And when you think about that, both from a services perspective, but also from an e-commerce perspective, working with logistics providers, the FedExes and the DHLs of this world, we create then this network that enables the SMB to be at the center of it
Hmm?
and to have access to all of these things. In a small way, I like to think of it as the value add that Payoneer can provide. Your relationship with Payoneer is almost like your passport to international expansion.
You mentioned about the influencers, and I think like in terms of business, they just leverage a lot on the last past years on the actuality with COVID and everything there. Did you see a change of trends by leveraging on them, for example, or working with some of the company they are working with them?
So, to be honest, it wasn't new for us.
Okay.
We have been working with influencers and community groups for many years now, because we knew that um, in order to be able to really connect with our customers, you need to speak to them in a way that they're comfortable. And what we found is that in many of these forums and in many of these um, communities, right, they were they were talking about the pain points, and it's sometimes difficult if you zoom out entirely to understand what they're talking about. And this is where the local teams that we have on the ground really provide so much value. Uh, this is also, again, what differentiates us in many key markets where we have teams on the ground looking to help these SMBs go global. And for me, you know, I take no credit for everything that we've been able to do over the last couple of years. It really is all about the amazing work that the team has been able to do, building relationships with local stakeholders, actually identifying opportunities and then translating those pain points into the business requirements, and providing that voice of customer link between the customer and Payoneer.
So you speak about the team right now. What kind of culture does it exist in your company? But also, what makes a great team for you?
I like to say, and this isn't what I say, but our CEO uses this a lot. Um, our culture is our superpower. Um, we believe that if you build with joy, you come to work every day, and you're happy with the people that you work with. You have fun doing it, and taking it beyond that. For me personally, I'm really inspired by the success stories of our customers. I mean, when I see some of the customers that we have and how much they've grown, I'm humbled, inspired, and really motivated to help them. I have a friend who I met, the first couple of months that I was with Payoneer. He's a customer, yes, but I consider him a friend. Um, he started his business as an individual freelancer providing customer care services to an American client. Today, 5 years later, he has 700 people across 9 different cities around the Philippines. His business has really taken off, and he's continued to stay grounded and humble. And for me, that's what gets me out of bed, right? Trying to find those people that have the passion and the drive to be able to expand internationally, and how can Payoneer be a part of their story?
This is a great success story. Very good one. Um, I have another question for you about partnerships because we focus a lot on your customers right now, but you're also like, as I'm sure, like financial institutions working with you, or you also mentioned about like logistic companies. Was it difficult for you or for Pioneer to work with them at the beginning? Did you face any challenges, or it was a smooth relationships in the beginning and everything was okay?
So that's a really, really great question. I think that sometimes um, Payoneer and a bank, from a partnership perspective, isn't always a logical dance partner
Mhm.
combination. But I always look at these partnerships as collaborative. I think at the start, when we try to explain what we're doing to the bank, they sometimes might look at it as, "Hey, we're providing those same kinds of services, right?" Or, "Hey, that product seems awfully similar to what we have, right?" But what we've tried to uh, share with them, and I think that in many cases we've been quite successful, right? Is to be able to look at it beyond just what is happening on the ground or what is happening with a particular product, but what the opportunity is moving forward. Number one. And number two, about the user experience. And I think more and more banks are starting to realize that this idea of user experience will really resonate more with the SMBs that they have. They are actually putting more focus now on SMBs versus years past where, they would put a lot of focus on large corporates. Some focus obviously on the consumer side of the business, but then there's this big, meaningful part in the middle of the SMB that largely wasn't getting the right kind of service and the right kind of attention. And, we try to position ourselves as a collaborator in this space because at the end of the day, we are actually looking to create connections with the bank to ultimately have the funds land and be settled on a last mile basis with that bank. So while the product might look like there's a little bit of overlap, the reality is you're going to be able to work with that customer in many new and interesting ways. You're going to learn more about that customer's business, and ultimately you're going to be able to, have a partnership where it's mutually beneficial.
Thanks for the answers. I think it's a great answer. Basically, I have another question because we are speaking about like Southeast Asia, right? So countries are very fragmented. Regulation is very different. How do you navigate between all those regulations to operate? And did you face any challenges, or do you face like maybe sometimes not the challenges but opportunities lying into the differences between those regulations and countries?
So that's a really, really good question. And, if I zoom back on that, right, regulations and compliance, super, super important. At the end of the day, we at Payoneer are in the business of trust.
Mhm.
If we do not provide a trusted, stable platform, our customers are not going to trust us to manage and move their money. So we ensure that we are compliant with all regulations in country. We are licensed in many geos globally, in all 50 US states as an MSB. We have a license in Europe, in the UK, in Japan, in India, um, of course, in Hong Kong. And recently we got an approval in principle to be a major payment institution license holder in Singapore.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And for me, that's one side of it, but the other side also is the last mile of the payment. And this is where we work with the likes of Bank of America, Barclays, Deutsche, global banks that help us hold and move the money. Um, Regional banks, including DBS, to be able to help us settle the money the last mile in many countries, and local banks in the Philippines, in um, Thailand, and all across Southeast Asia. The fact that we work with these banks also creates and enhances that sense of trust because they know, our customers know, that we are compliant with local regulations. It's it's a thing that you don't kind of want to compromise on, right? Because
Yeah.
um, without compliance and risk, it's kind of like driving a car with no brakes,
Yeah.
right? You could you could have an unfortunate accident.
Thanks for the image. It's a good comparison, I think. Um, I was thinking also like about because you speak about like the current market right now. But do you see like any trends, or do you foresee any challenges in the coming future months for you or for the market right now? Especially when we speak about like global digital commerce, and we see all the tension between all these countries right now.
Indeed, indeed. It's a very interesting world that we live in today. And there are certainly macroeconomic challenges all over the world. But we are seeing some encouraging trends in APAC based on a recent report that I read from WorldPay. Um, they're actually seeing um, compounded annual growth of anywhere between 15 to 18% in e-commerce in many developing countries in Southeast Asia and in APAC. And these trends are very encouraging, not just because e-commerce is starting to become a bigger part of the overall retail landscape in many of these countries, but also that as a method of payment, right? There is definitely a noticeable shift from credit cards being that primary consumer method of payment to more options that are like digital wallets, for example, right? And with Gen Z younger customers now, their experience has been entirely around, connecting with a local wallet or connecting with, Facebook or Instagram or these social platforms, right? And for them, um, they haven't really built that association with the local brands that are the banks in the countries. And I think if you think about where the majority of the shoppers are going to come from in the years to come, it's going to be this younger generation, right? So we're also watching very closely that trend towards the use of digital wallets as a method of payment on e-commerce. We are seeing promising trends when it comes to digital commerce in APAC. And then, on the flip side, when we think about services, I think countries like the Philippines are actually really well positioned to address some of these global trends around offshoring, outsourcing, and being able to provide some of these services remotely. As the world starts to get used to a distributed global workforce, they're much more open now to hiring and building teams uh, in different countries. And that's also an opportunity for many of the business process outsourcing companies we work with and the freelancers we work with to be able to access those trends. In fact, I mentioned earlier that freelancer income survey, which we released earlier this year. Of the thousands of freelancers that we surveyed, actually 46% of them said that demand increased year on year versus last year for them. So we're taking that as a positive sign that there continues to be robust demand for the services that our customers provide.
Perfect, perfect. Any website, blogs, or no, like a center of information where people can know more about the companies, the services?
So Payoneer.com.
Mhm.
We also have a great blog which is linked to that webpage. We also have a number of local communities in the many different countries that we operate in, and you can find many of these communities on Facebook, for example, and some localized channels. For example, we have a great uh, community on Line in Thailand.
Nice.
Um, but for me, it is actually also about connecting face to face, right? And one of the things that I'm super excited about is that now that travel is coming back, I'm going to get the opportunity to meet with many of our customers in many cities across Southeast Asia because we are going to be doing more of these Payoneer forums,
Mhm.
and so I hope that I can connect with people online, also of course offline at some of these events, and I really hope also to be doing more with customers across Southeast Asia as we, really try to navigate the global opportunities.
And how people can know more about you? How can they connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn and always happy to connect, particularly if it's about fintech or digital commerce, and also again happy to connect offline because I really am really excited about the opportunities to participate in more industry events and community gatherings that I hope to see also in Hong Kong moving forward.
Thank you very much, Miguel. It was a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you, Medhy.
I hope you have like a good time with me, and thank you for sharing everything with us.
Indeed. Cheers.
Cheers.